Family Town Hall. We are very excited to answer any of your questions. And we have a number of guests here who are going to help us do just that. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves, please, and I will give you a shout out. Adam Holm.
Good evening, Adam Holm, Executive Director of Community Education and Activities Oversight for 712 High School.
Thank you. Principal Johnson.
Good evening and welcome. Al Johnson, Principal at McKinley Area Learning Center.
Thank you. Principal Fisher.
Hello, everybody. Alicia Fisher, proud principal of Apollo High School. Thanks for being here this evening.
Principal Harris.
Good evening and welcome, families. Principal Harris, Tech High School.
AP Patton.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cindy Patton, and I'm assistant principal at Tech High School.
Thank you. AP Kenzie.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Molly Kenzie, assistant principal at Tech High School.
AP Scalarud.
Hi, Justin Scullerud, assistant principal at Apollo High School.
Tammy DeLand.
Hi, I'm the Director of Communications and Community Engagement for District 742.
Lori Posh.
Good evening, everyone. Lori Posh, Executive Director of Learning and Teaching. Thanks for joining us.
And also on the call are Ryan Cox, our incredible Director of Technology. He is here helping and supporting our technology efforts behind the scenes. Dr. Beisch, who is our Assistant Superintendent for Elementary Education. She supervises PK through 5 education here in the district, and Superintendent Jett is also here on the call. And tonight we have created a presentation based on your questions, your comments that you have submitted ahead of time using the Google form. And that form is still live. And we absolutely ask that you please send us your questions ahead of time. Tammy is moderating the communication from you and will either interrupt us or add those on to the end as she makes sense of our progress through the slideshow. So we are grateful for your engagement and look forward to helping you feel ready and prepared for the school year. Principal Fisher, would you please start us off by talking a little bit about the change in school times?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And hopefully you can see this slide. It lays out our secondary schools and our start times. And so, want to share with you that health and safety are a top priority. And what you'll see is a slightly later schedule for our secondary buildings. And the reason for that is that we needed to provide adequate time between our first wave of busers, which are our younger students, and our secondary students to be able to provide adequate sanitation. And in that start time also allows our teachers to have some planning time and some collaboration in the morning. And so while we understand that this is an adjustment for our families, know that the adjustment was thought of and thought out carefully, as I mentioned, with health and safety being a top priority when it comes to transporting our students.
Principal Fisher, in the past, sometimes doors would open very early and students were able to come and sometimes even before our staff started. Will that be available this year?
We talked as an administrative group about how we could support that, and what we're asking our families to do with dropping off is dropping off their students as close to the start time as possible. We will no longer be able to have students congregating in common areas. And so therefore, when students do get to the school building, we are asking that they go to their first hour class right away. And to be able to provide that adequate supervision, social distancing, and screening within that time, we're really asking that we're thoughtful about those drop-off times. Obviously, our buses will start coming and rolling in, and we'll be doing screening off of our buses, and we anticipate our buses will start dropping off students around that 8:25 mark each morning.
Thank you so much. Principal Harris, would you be willing to just talk us through a little bit about what the high school bell schedule looks like this year?
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Putnam. When you look at the bell schedule, we moved from a typical 7-period day to a block schedule, 3-period day. And in looking at that, it all came from feedback from all our stakeholders pertaining to making meaningful social connections, creating that academic rigorous environment and instruction for our students. And specifically, this was a good way to do it with the specifics around the block schedule. So the typical class was around 55, 56 minutes. Now with that block schedule, it's going to 112 minutes per period. A good way for teachers to make those connections, to check in with students, to really focus in on what students need, the students that are in front of them, as well as students that are specifically at home. One of the things around safety was moving from the 7-period day to the 3-period block schedule. You have less transitions within the school day. So a typical school day when you have kids with movement, and now within the pandemic, it really helps us to have less transitions within the school day pertaining to the schedule.
Thank you very much. We will talk shortly about lunch and Flex Friday more in depth. So thank you.
I do have a question about this schedule and PSEO. Do you want to take that now?
Yes.
So the question is, if the student has a 1 to 3 schedule and then PSEO, what does it look like for them for those other 3 classes?
And would one of our building admin want to take that question?
I can take that question, Tammy. And just to clarify, the question is, if the student already has their set schedule with their college or university, what do they do on the opposite day or the day that they attend? Is that the question?
Yeah, it was laid out. So my student has, say, the first day is classes 1 through 3, but the rest is PSEO. What happens for 6?
So they do not need to be in building. The days that you see laid out are the AB opposite flex. So what you'll see is that an A day would be for students on Monday and Wednesday, and that's for students with the last name of A through K. And then obviously the corresponding Tuesday, Thursday with our B students of L through Z, so that in that instance, the student would not come to school on the day for 4, 5, 6.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you to those of you who are sending in questions like that. We appreciate that engagement. Morning routines. So morning routines, we're asking your support and your student support because they're going to need to look a little bit different. The health and safety of this entire community is going to be a collaborative effort. It's going to take all of us doing our parts to keep us all safe and healthy and coming to school just as often as we can. Before students even leave their home to come to school, we're asking them to complete a screening form in Skyward. It's very brief. It's a couple questions asking about COVID-related symptoms and anything they've been experiencing. Students do know their Skyward login. They practice it in advisory, and that's our advisory teachers go over the Skyward with them in terms of assignments and attendance. So you are also able to access the form through the Skyward Family Portal if you prefer to do that either with your child or instead of your child. And of course, as you'll see shortly about morning routines, and I'll ask AP Skyward to talk a little bit about those when we talk about temperature checks and breakfast. In terms of bus expectations, students are expected to wear their masks and to keep social distancing boundaries as soon as they come on our property. So whether that's at the bus stop or at the bus or in school, we are asking students to keep their masks on, and we'll talk a little bit later about what that looks like. Students will, of course, board the bus and fill to the back, and then when they arrive at school, their temperature will be taken as they disembark from the front, so that we are really limiting passing and that exchange of air. We're expecting, and we will teach students what all of these expectations are. In terms of temperature checks, AP Skellard, would you walk us through what a student might expect when they arrive at Tech or Apollo in terms of number of doors, temperature checks, and are those mandatory? What might breakfast look like, and do they need to go directly to class?
Absolutely. When students come to Apollo specifically, I'll speak it, and then Tech, I know procedures are going to be very similar. Depending how they arrive is going to be dictate what door they're going to come in. All this will be communicated out this week or next, but if you're being dropped off via car, you're going to get dropped off at door 12, and temperature check will be right there as your student's getting dropped off. If you're a walker, you'll be coming in door 7, or if your student drives, you'll be coming in door 7. Also, if you ride the bus, we'll be meeting, our staff will be meeting students at the bus and be doing the temperature check as they get off the bus. Once students enter the building, they're either welcome to grab their breakfast, and so grab and go breakfast and head to their first hour class, or otherwise, if they're choosing not to eat breakfast, they will go to their first hour class directly to it. And this is going to be a bit of a change from what it's been in the past. Typically, students have had the ability to hang out in the common area in some different places, but to make sure that everyone is in one spot and as a place to be and is with the teacher, and we can make sure we're getting kids to their areas from point A to point B. This will be a pretty big change for our kids, that they'll make that adjustment the first couple of weeks.
Fabulous. And Principal Johnson, will that look very similar at McKinley? Can students expect to do the same sort of temperature checks and the grab and go breakfast?
Yes, ours will be, he just described what it will look like at McKinley as well. And just as Ms. Fisher stated, we are asking students to arrive as close to the start of school as possible. There will be 2 different doors. Students will enter, bus riders will enter in door number 2. And they'll be screened at the bus, and the walkers and the riders will be asked to come through door number 1. And consistently, we will have grab and go breakfast right towards the middle. So as you come in, and they can either get breakfast or go directly to class.
Thank you, Principal Johnson. And I appreciate what you said, that the routines will look very similar at McKinley. This entire team that you see on the screen has worked really hard to ensure consistency across all 3 of our high schools, so that students and staff know exactly what to expect, and so that our community is in fact safe and healthy at all times. Learning expectations. Lori and I are going to tag team this slide. People have asked us, tell us more about AB Flex. So what we can tell you is that our students with last names A through K are assigned to the A days. Our students' last names L through Z are assigned to B days. Those days remain consistent throughout the entire year. A's always come Monday, Wednesday, and B's always come Tuesday, Thursday. So if you want to know about a day in April, will my child be in school? You can absolutely know. If it's a Monday and Wednesday and their last name A through K, they'll be there. People have asked us, this is hard on my child. My child is, their best friend has been assigned to a B day. My child is an A day. Is there an option to change that? And I want you to know that every single person on this call empathizes and feels that either we were that kid, we have those kids, and we love your kids and want them to be safe and happy and healthy. Part of being safe and healthy and happy is maintaining social distance in all of our classrooms and all of our spaces. We hired an independent architectural firm to tell us in every single one of our spaces in our high schools and our middle schools how many students can fit safely, maintaining a 6-foot distance, and what does the furniture layout look like. That was mapped out and all of the administrators have that information. And now our counselors are building class lists based on health and safety guidelines and the A through K and the L through Z assignments. So while we would love to be able to make exceptions for anybody who asked for it, unfortunately, in this environment that we find ourselves with COVID-19 being so unpredictable, we are not able to honor those requests just blanket. There is a form that AP Kenzie and the tech team took on leadership for and developed, and that will be available to you if you'd like to make the request. those are truly reserved though for essential changes. So if a student is homeless and living with another family and need to be partnered with that family for health or safety or living arrangements, then that is an example of why we might honor that exchange. When we think about AK and LZ assignments, we know that those don't just magically split evenly across our district. We know that some of our schools are heavier on one half of the alphabet than the other. And so those may need to be flexed slightly as we maintain that 50% social distancing capacity. Our Distance Learning Academy registrations closed and were finalized as of this morning. And now we spent the day restaffing in terms of, we had almost 1,600 students sign up K-12 for distance learning, which is amazing, the Distance Learning Academy. But that means that we have to restaff and then reschedule all of our buildings. And so the administrators that you see on these screens are responsible for absolutely redoing their entire master schedules, and then those beautiful school counselors are redoing all of our student schedules and class lists. And that takes some time. So you will hear from them probably that first week in September about what your students' school schedule and assignment will look like. People have asked us, why did you choose AB Friday? Other districts are doing AA, Flex BB. Why did you choose the model that you did? And I want you to know that a lot of thought went into this. After talking with our teachers, they asked for an AB Friday flex because that model allowed them to see all of their students. By Friday, when they have the opportunity to pull individual or small group, they know which concepts students did not grasp, and they know which students did not grasp the concept. And they also know which students mastered the concept immediately and need some extension. And that's what that Friday is designed for, as you'll hear shortly from Lori Posch. In terms of potential exposure benefits, people have said, well, if you have AA, that means the germs are all solidified in one day. And I understand the idea behind that, but I want to assure you that we have hired additional custodians, and our custodians have been trained. We have bought additional cleaning equipment, and all of our buildings and our spaces will be cleaned every single night. The benefit that we see to do an AB is that if there was a potential exposure on an A day, say it's a Monday, and by having students come back on that Wednesday, we have 24 hours to be able to contact trace who might that student have come in contact with, and then notify all of those families and staff about that potential exposure, so that then our families can make choices that either to go to the doctor and be tested, or we would let you know if you need to be quarantined at that point. So for those reasons, we decided on the AB flex. Lori Posch, would you please talk about learning expectations?
Yes, I want everybody to hear loud and clear that we have high expectations for our students, no matter where the learning's taking place. So whether a student is in a site, in a school building site, or learning from home, those expectations remain the same. We know that in our hybrid model, there will be days where our students are in that site learning in person, and days when they will be learning at home. Our teachers in each of the classes will be logging in with the students. Our common platform is Schoology, and at our high school, that Schoology platform will be used every day. So whether our students are on site or at home, all of the assignments, the learning materials, everything that the students need will be housed in that Schoology account. For our students who are in our Distance Learning Academy, and I'm going to talk more about that coming up, but those students also have high expectations, and their teachers that they're assigned to will be working with the students. Some of it will be synchronously, so it will be live, and at other times it will be asynchronous, where students are working on their own. They might be watching something that a teacher has prepared for them. But in any situation, our students will be learning, and we do have that expectation of that happening. Our teachers as well, we have high expectations for them that learning and teaching is happening. On our Flex Fridays, as Dr. Putnam explained, our Fridays are set to be a time for our students to be able to go deeper in their learning, to do some enrichment, or to be able to have some extra time to meet with small groups, to meet one-on-one with their teacher, to have the teacher offer some remediation options. So all of those will be possibilities on Friday. We do expect that our students not just attend every day, but that they're participating every day. So when we talk about attendance, when they're on a school site, of course, attendance will be taken by them being present. But if they're at home, attendance will be taken by them logging into their class. They, just like in a school site, they need to be logged in within the first 10 minutes or they will be marked tardy. If they don't log into that class, they will be marked absent. For our students, as we look at attendance, it's not just the logging in though, and that goes back to those high expectations. It's logging in and it's participating in the activities that the teacher has planned for that day. So we're excited about the opportunities that we have to offer for our students, and our teachers are excited to have our students back and be teaching.
Lori, a question came in about Schoology, and will teachers be using it in a standardized, logical way?
Great question. Yes, we heard loud and clear from students and from parents that that was something that was really needed. So we have established Schoology expectations this year. Our courses will be set up in a similar way for each class so that it will be easier for our students to be able to navigate that. Our teachers will be doing a Schoology checklist to make sure that they have everything set up, and we have staff ready to help them if they need to do that.
Thank you. And if I may circle back on a couple of scheduling questions that are good questions also. So with the schedule going from 6 classes to 7, one question is, who decides that 7th class? How does that work?
I see some Apollo folks wanting to jump in. Justin or Alicia, why don't you take that one?
So what you see in the block schedule is actually lunch embedded. And so rather than having lunch as a standalone period, it wasn't a true 7-period day in that way. Students took 6 classes. And so, if we think about the way that slide was structured, there was a bottom horizontal bar that indicated the 5 lunches that we will be using to adapt to having smaller cafeteria capacity. And so that is where that class comes from. It was already embedded in a course, and now it's going to be, it's not a standalone course as the lunch study was in the past. So it was really a true 6-period day. We were keeping with that in the spirit of our block, with students attending 1st through 3rd period on their first day of the week, and then 4th through 6th on the 2nd day of their week.
So do I hear you saying that you're not losing a class and that there's no effect on graduation credits?
You do hear me saying that, absolutely. While we do have a handful of students from both Tech and Apollo who have opted to add that 7th hour, they did that without having a lunch. And so the majority of our students have always taken the 6 credits, which would mean 18 possible credits in the school year. Multiply that times 4 of their 4 high school years, and that is certainly exceeds the number of credits needed for graduation in the state of Minnesota and the St. Cloud School District.
And then this question probably swings a little bit back to what Lori Posch was talking about. And that is, in this model, you have teachers who are teaching in person, and they're also responsible for students on that in-person day. So what does that mean for a teacher? How are they scheduling that? How are they organizing that, if you will?
So again, it goes back to having that common platform of Schoology. And our students, whether they are in person or at home, will be participating in the activities that the teacher has planned through Schoology. So on the days when, and I'm not talking about Distance Learning Academy, but on the days when our students are learning from home, they will be set up for success at home. However, our teachers will be monitoring email, so they can check in with them that way. And there may be some days that our teachers say, I want everybody to stay online today. So, there's a variety of ways. It really depends on the lesson. And if the teacher wants the students to log in just for the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes for a check-in, or if they want them to stay all together. But our teachers, again, that's part of the professional development that our teachers are getting. And I see some principals like nodding heads. If there's anything you want to add to that. Otherwise, hopefully we answered that.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now we want to spend a little bit of time on health and safety. Principal Johnson, would you talk to us a little bit about mask expectations?
Well, the expectation is for students that ride the bus, for them to arrive on the bus as they're getting on, to make sure they have the mask on at the beginning, right there. And then masks are required to be on throughout the day till they get safely back home. And so that's in each class. And we realize that you cannot wear a mask and eat at the same time. And so we will be teaching expectations. We'll be teaching protocols for all the different areas of the school and the different times of day when it's appropriate. But the key there is safety for all students and staff. And so students will be wearing masks during their class times. Also, the teachers and administrators will be wearing masks as well, just to make sure that everyone is safe.
Thank you so much. AP Patton and AP Kenzie, if you would like to, Cindy, would you start us off on lunch? What can students expect about lunch?
Thank you, Dr. Putnam. This is a great question. So one of the things we did to accommodate a socially distanced lunchroom is build our lunches into our second and our fifth period classes. Each of the high schools will be having 5 different lunches, and taking into account the amount of people that can comfortably and safely social distance in our lunchrooms was how we arrived at that number. So our students, while eating their lunch, or actually while walking to and from their lunch, will be socially distanced. They will be sitting in a socially distanced fashion as well, but we will be practicing safe protocols during lunchtime, with the exception of when they're actually eating their food, to maintain safety for everyone.
Thank you. AP Kenzie, will meals be available on a grab-and-go basis at the end of the day for students who will be home the next day?
Yes, so students will, at the end of the day, we will release in a staggered fashion to allow for social distancing as students exit the building. But it will also allow for students to pick up a grab-and-go meal as they are leaving campus that day, because they will not be returning the next day in our AB hybrid model.
Thank you. AP Skellerwood, is there anything else that we need to know about lunch this year? Anything new for lunch changes?
One change that we do need families to consider is our a la carte will not be an option this year. There's multiple things and reasons why that is, and one of them, and probably most importantly, is the ability to have our students spread out, socially distanced, while getting served their mainline meals. We still will have multiple options every day for our students, but the traditional a la carte, where students are able to get a small individually packed item to purchase, either out of their lunch account separate to a meal, is something that we will not have this year, focusing on serving those mainline meals and being able to keep our students safe and distanced while doing that.
Thank you very much. I did have a question separately. As a parent at email, can they get school lunch and then bring their own items? And that would be just fine as well if students feel like they might want to supplement. Yep, I'm seeing nods from all of our administrators, so thank you. In terms of high contact, high exhalation courses, Lori Posh, would you talk to us a little bit about courses like Phy-Ed and choir and band?
Yes, let's talk about what high contact and high exhalation means. So our high contact classes are the courses where our students are maybe sharing equipment. So a Phy-Ed class where they maybe are from one class to another sharing a badminton racket, or a chemistry class where they are working on with the lab equipment. And then our high exhalation classes are the courses like choir and band, where there is moisture and air coming from the mouth. So that's what we mean about those classes. We know that all of those courses are highly, highly important for the development of our students, that they are courses that we want to continue to offer. We have spent a lot of time doing a lot of research, talking with area medical experts, reviewing information from the CDC, from the Minnesota Department of Health, Minnesota Department of Education. And our music, our art, our FIAD teachers are getting together this week, our leaders in those areas, to set up what those protocols are. So when we're talking about FIAD, we know that there are certain equipment materials that are easier to clean than others. So our FIAD teachers will be revising their units and their instruction around those materials that are easy to clean. We've purchased additional cleaning products to make sure that we can clean in all of those areas appropriately. Our band and our orchestra, where there may be some shared equipment, have some special requirements that they have put into place and that have come out from some of the research. So we have ordered some additional cleaning materials and some safety protocols around that as well. We are really convinced that with maintaining social distance and with the extra equipment and materials that we've purchased, that we can safely offer these for our students and continue to do so.
Thank you. Tammy.
Quick question about lunch. Is the microwave available for student use if they bring food from home?
Justin.
We have not had a microwave available at Apollo, so we have not had that, and it will not be this year.
Thank you. I wonder if that might be coming from a Kennedy family. When I transferred from South to Kennedy, I was just floored that they had microwaves available, and it was so special. And every year, you know, at least one would go up and smoke, and that was just a learning just a learning opportunity for us all. So we do not have those available at high school. But my guess is that's where that question might be coming from.
A question about lockers.
Absolutely. Principal Fisher.
Yes, we encourage students to use lockers if that's their preference. And this year we will be assigning lockers based on request. And essentially we've set up a system for alternating days, and we've actually cut a string of 6 feet and measured out how many lockers we need in between to assign students. And so we're thoughtful about which students will be attending which days. So if your student is interested in having a locker, we will have a process for requesting that and then also assigning the locker.
Principal Harris, is that the same at Tech?
That same practice would happen at Tech, right? Students will have to request which locker for some time.
I believe you may be muted, Dr. Putnam.
Oh, thank you. Would they? I'm just checking. Would a family, if they wanted to request a locker, would they do that from school administration?
Yes, right now those requests would be through school administration. Each individual school has an administrator that will be responsible for that and keeping just tabs on who's registering and what locker they're taking.
And you can expect as we get closer to the school start date that information will come out in a Skylert communication laying out what that process will look like. I'm going to take a guess that it'll probably involve a Google form.
That's probably a pretty good guess. Smart money's on the Google form. And the only other thing I want to add about cleaning routines is that, as I said at the beginning, health and safety is a collective responsibility. And so we will be asking students to wipe down their surface either before on entry of the classroom or on leaving the classroom. And then our teachers will be supporting that, and our custodians throughout the day will be wiping down high touch areas. And we know how important this is for all of us, so we just wanted to point that out as well. Sorry, Adam, would you talk a little bit about activities?
I'm so excited. Now this is probably one of the best ones, because when that bell rings, all three principals have asked to make sure that we continue with our high level of activities we offer so that the buses go home empty and our students are engaged. We're going to follow the Minnesota State High School League guidelines. So this fall, we're offering soccer, tennis, cross country, and swimming. But there is football and volleyball. They've approved 12 days, and they can work with the activities office and their coach to find out what days they would be. But soccer's 9 through 12, tennis, cross country, and swimming are 7-12. And our 7th and 8th graders are going to be able to come up and join the high school as well, so we can build school families and continue to grow and enrich opportunities. So we're really excited that the schools have put so much emphasis on after school, because we know that that's going to lead to higher attendance rates, better grades, and they're going to build more friends because they can be with each other for a couple of hours outside of the classroom. We are going to be masked inside, and they're going to follow all the safety protocols, and that's our key. We want our students safe, but we want them active so that they can continue to expand on their learning outside of the traditional school day. Transportation, to practice, there's none. Going home, there is none, but going to events, we'll have transportation. That's similar to what we've done in the past. McKinley's also going to be offering the activities they've offered in the past, and Principal Johnson is right on there to make sure all those leadership activities happen. Our fine arts at our schools are second to none. We got, this returning state champion math team. We got the Knowledge Bowl teams, all the speech teams, and they were at nationals again this year. So lots of good things happening. We're going to have tremendous either musicals or plays at the 2 high schools, and we're going to have the 1 acts, all of which though are going to they're going to follow social distance guidelines, and we're going to do the best we can, but they're going to have fun and they're going to learn, and we're going to have things for them to do. And if you have any questions, please reach out to your activities coordinator in the buildings or Principal Johnson, and they'll get back to you and let you know what we have to offer.
And Adam, that includes robotics, is that right?
Yep, they'd work with if it's a school activity, they'd work with the activities director and see what that will be. I'm not sure where currently robotics practices, but if we offered it in the past, my understanding is we're going to continue to offer it as long as it's one of the school-sponsored activities.
Thank you very much. Now we're going to talk a little bit about back to school events. Principal Harris, would you talk about device pickup?
Yeah. First, I want to just thank our district technology and the media specialists, right? To get devices out, we know it's important to set students up for success at the beginning of the year, since everything is going to be digitally. So the secondary folks talked about how that looks, and Apollo got a chance last week on Thursday to get the devices out. Tech will spend tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday getting devices out. And it's just kind of walking through the process and seeing the laptops, and the 9th graders will get new Chromebooks. It's kind of like if you ordered pickup and you went to a restaurant, you come to the building. For tech, it's door 1. You give them your name, and a staff member will meet you there, hand you the device. We're asking that folks fill out the forms ahead of time. If you go to the district webpage on our Back to School and look under technology, all the information is there for the device agreement and also the fee. So I just want to say I'm proud to just be a part of that. This is innovative, where we're seeing where you can just drive up, get your device. And if you don't have the form and you haven't filled it out, we would just ask you to pull up, fill out the device, come back around. We'll get that information and the device to you. So if for tech families, you probably got a robocall from me not too long ago about device deployment and all the things you need to do to set our students up for success with the device.
Thank you. And just a little Crosstown Rivalry. I know 600 devices were deployed last week at Apollo's distribution. So let's see if the South Side can beat 600 devices, huh?
Thanks, Principal Fisher, for setting the stage. We're always up for a rivalry and a challenge. We'll be ready tomorrow. So whenever you want to come get that device tomorrow between 12 and 7, Wednesday 12 and 7, Thursday 8 to 4. It's just like pickup service if you were ordering food.
And Principal Johnson, I'm sure you want in on that action. Are students able to come pick up devices this week at McKinley as well?
Yes, they are. We're modeling the same times as Tech are. But if we can multiply, so for each device we get 10 because we have fewer students. I believe we're going to keep pace with you all. Yeah. But we will be doing the drive-by as well. Same procedures, right through the parking lot, door 1, and there'll be people there to help and support you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Tech, I know that you guys cleared out any leftover belongings from the spring. Apollo and McKinley, if there are belongings that were left over, how might families collect those? Justin.
So at Apollo, we do have them all sorted and organized in our auditorium. And the first 2 weeks during lunch, we'll have a system devised to pick those things up for you. And AP Sininger was so kind to bring all over, if you're a North coming to Apollo student, and 8th to 9th, he did bring all of your things over from North. So we do have those. So I can certainly talk to Ms. Wilhite if we have our Kennedy folks too and get that all arranged. But we'll definitely have pickup during your lunches the first 2 weeks of school to make sure you get everything that was left from last year.
Thank you so much. Another back to school event are welcome back conferences and 9th grade orientation. Principal Fisher, what will open house? I know in the past you've done open house. That's been an all call, and knowing that that's probably not safe this year, what can families expect in terms of orientation?
Thank you, Dr. Putnam. Well, one thing we want our families to know is that we value the connections that we have, and although we may not be able to meet in person with all families, we want to ensure that there's a meaningful opportunity carved out for all of our families to connect with their advisory teacher. And so when we were talking about the bell schedule earlier, and Principal Harris talked about our charge from the state to reduce the number of transitions, one of the transitions that we removed is having advisory as a standalone course. That will be additional minutes added on to the first and fourth period of the day. And the teacher who will be facilitating the welcome back conferences will be that instructor. And families can expect 15 to 20 minutes with the advisory teacher as a meet and greet to talk about your child's goals. I think it would be commonplace to talk about what was successful in distance learning last year in the spring. What are the strengths that your student brings to the new grade level if they're students, and then particularly having some special events for our 9th grade families and our new to Apollo and new to Tech and new to McKinley families. Each of us have created a virtual open house, and so this will be sent out to families this week, and it's a video that shows virtually the common locations within the school so that our families feel acclimated even when they're not able to step foot in the building. And the other meaningful piece that we're creating is our link crew leaders, which are upperclassmen, will be working with our 9th grade students to orient them to the building with team building activities, and then students having an opportunity to meet with their instructors individually, virtually. So we have a plethora of things. I encourage you to direct to the webpage. Principal Harris alluded to our robocalls or our skylerts that go out that contain important information, and you can anticipate the links to those videos coming out this week.
Thank you very much. And now we get to Distance Learning Academy. I know that there are always questions. Tammy, I see you unmuted your mic. Is there something we should cover before we?
Yeah, this one's quick, and it goes back to our health and safety protocols. Are drinking fountains going to be available?
Drinking fountains will not be available. Nope, we encourage students to bring water in a clear plastic container. We know that is not safe for students to be or making mouth contact.
Thank you.
Absolutely. In terms of our Distance Learning Academy, as I said before, we are extremely excited about the enrollment there, and are excited about the potential for new communities being formed in that learning academy. You can expect that that daily schedule will mirror the high school schedule of tech and Apollo. And that's because we have many students who will be doing some synchronous learning or some simultaneous learning in their brick and mortar schools. There will be many of our courses that are paired together, so students will still have the opportunity to create and maintain relationships with students who are attending in that brick and mortar. Attendance will be taken the same way as we've described before. Students are expected to log in that first 10 minutes, whether they're in distance learning, whether they're in hybrid learning in school or at home. That first 10 minutes is crucial because that's when they'll be getting instructions from their teacher and they'll find out the learning plan for that day's class period. Just like if you were at Tech, Apollo, or McKinley, if you're not there the first 10 minutes, you are tardy. And then if you have not come to class, then you would be considered absent or for that period. So we still need our families, whether a distance learning academy or brick and mortar, to call in ahead of time if their child will be absent so that we can excuse them and enter that into Skyward. Otherwise, of course, that would be marked a truant per county mandate, county and state policy. I'm going to cover a few more things before I turn it over to Lori. As you heard, device pickup is happening, and if you're enrolled in our Distance Learning Academy, we ask that you please go to your home school, so Tech, McKinley, or Apollo, to pick up your device during that window of time that you saw displayed earlier. If you need a hotspot, you would request that from your homeschool administrator. That would be approved by Director Cox and his team, and then you would be able to pick that device up from us once that is approved. And we have ordered, thanks to the foresight of Brian and his team, we have ordered enough hotspots for any of our families who struggle with internet connectivity or stability. Conferences will be done the same way that you have heard this beautiful team describe. They will be online, 20-minute conferences so that you can get to meet your child's advisory teacher. And meals will be available to all of our Distance Learning Academy students. They will be distributed at sites around our community. We will be providing that information shortly. If you've not had a chance yet, please take a look at Superintendent Jett's weekly communication. He included a lengthy communication from our Distance Learning Academy team, and that would Heather Ebna is leading, taking the charge of that learning community. So there's lots of information there as well. Lori, would you talk a little bit about what students and families can expect in terms of instruction in the Distance Learning Academy?
Yes, you did such a great job covering so much of it. One of the things that I want to make sure that I say is that although the offering of a distance learning system for students was something that was put in the governor's guidance, it's something that we are really excited about being able to offer. So it's not just something that we have to do, it really is something that we want to do. Right now, as Dr. Putnam had said, our registrations were finalized as of this morning, and our teams are hard at work looking at what our students registered for last year and aligning that for our students who are taking the Distance Learning Academy. So in terms of course offerings, I get asked that a lot. Can our students still participate in things like AP and choir and band? And the answer is yes. We, just like any other year, look at how many students have registered for a course to see if we have enough students to offer that course. We will be combining our numbers from the Distance Learning Academy with our numbers of students who are on site. So we'll be making those decisions just like we would every year. As Dr. Putnam said, there may be some courses where our students will log in and participate in the course with the students who are on site. So our teams are hard at work getting those schedules created. When our students are in Distance Learning Academy, they can expect to have some type of check-in with every one of their teachers every day. And then the amount of time that they spend online will vary from day to day and from course to course. There may be times where they check in at the beginning and then are sent off to work on something, maybe in groups or individually, and then we'll come back together. So every day will look a little different. except that they will follow that same schedule every day. So they will have their periods 1, 2, 3 classes, and then their periods 4, 5, 6 classes on the next day. I'll leave it there unless there's questions.
There are a couple on that very topic. So Lori, will they get a schedule? Distance Learning Academy students, will they get a schedule in the mail?
Yes, they will. And, because we are sharing some courses between the actual physical building and with Distance Learning Academy, it's important that we stay in that same schedule system. Can I add one other thing that I thought of that comes from some of our high school parents, and that's whether or not they remain a McKinley, Apollo, or Tech student. And yes, they do. So they really are part of 2 learning communities. They're part of their home school, and they're also part of Distance Learning Academy. So our seniors will graduate from their home school and will stay connected with that building as well.
And you can expect to hear from our administrators in the next, since we had so many students enroll in Distance Learning Academy, we had hoped to have schedules to you the week of the 31st. That has been pushed out a little bit, so most likely you'll hear probably the 2nd or the 3rd. And we most likely will not be mailing those to you. We'll be providing those in Skyward, and you'll be notified whether you're at Tech, McKinley, Apollo, or the Distance Learning Academy that your schedule is available in Skyward. So you can take a look at that. And we are working just as hard as we can. We know how exciting this time is to get that schedule and find out what you'll be learning and who your teacher will be, and then be able to call your friends. And so we are working really hard to get that to you just as soon as we can.
Good answer. You anticipated that question. This is not on Distance Learning Academy only, I will say. It's a general question about if my student has an IEP, how are they going to be informed about what happens next for them?
That is a great question, and I'm so glad you asked it. Our case managers, and those are the people who manage the individual education plans, are waiting on us to complete our master schedules and our student schedules so that they can meet with our families and the IEP team to rewrite that IEP for the school year. We know that we are required to rewrite those, and we of course would want to do that to make sure students' needs are met. But that timeline has been pushed back. Executive Director Potter is working with her team to get that done just as soon as possible, and I know that these administrators are working hard. In fact, that's where AP Sandoval and AP Tiber are tonight. They are hard at work redoing our master schedules, and so they wanted to be here with you, and we're just unable to do that. But those case managers, as soon as we get those schedules done, we'll be meeting with you as a family and as a team to rewrite the IEP to make sure your needs are met, whether through Distance Learning Academy or through brick and mortar.
And a question, and actually this came up in middle school too, and we didn't have time to answer it, but a question about what does immersion look like in both scenarios? How will immersion look in hybrid? How will immersion look in Distance Learning Academy?
So at our secondary, for our Spanish immersion students at our high school actually become part of our world language programs. So just like our other students in our other classes, they will be scheduled into those classes. And some of those may be with an individual teacher, depending on numbers, or some of them may be connecting with the classroom that is happening at their school. For our Chinese immersion students, we do have a Chinese immersion teacher who will be doing the courses at our high school in Chinese.
Thank you. This is one of the big questions. What happens if a student or a staff member tests positive for COVID?
That is a great question. We are developing protocols that will be available on our website and communicated out to our families about what happens when an individual tests positive for that individual. and their family and the choices that they need to make, along with what happens for our entire school community. Right now, the reason we have not published those yet is that we've received conflicting guidance about whether that's 10 days or whether that's 14 days of self-quarantine. So if a staff or a student tests positive, they are of course required to stay home for the 10 or the 14 days, depending on what the CDC and the Minnesota Department of Health come to as a final number. And even if families or students have been test negative, they are still required to quarantine, because we know that sometimes that positive test doesn't come through for a few days. So we are developing a flow chart. It's thanks to Tammy and her department. There's some beautiful graphics. It's very cleanly and simply laid out so that families, staff, and students know exactly what their steps are if they have been exposed or confirmed with a case. And then we also have a decision-making matrix that our district and building administrators will use to decide when and if a specific cadre, so say an A day or a B day, needs to be closed, if there is, and for how long, whether it's 24 hours, 72 hours, whether a school needs to be closed. We have partnered with our CentraCare health professionals and the Department of Health to ensure that those decision-making matrices and guidelines are effective and maintain the health and safety of this community.
We have 3 minutes, but I can squeeze one more in. And that question is, what about substitute teachers? How does that work in our hybrid model?
Right. That's a question we tackled early on. So the beautiful thing about the way we have designed our learning and teaching model is that, as Lori said earlier, learning can happen anywhere. And that also means that teaching can happen anywhere. So if our staff are needing to be home because they're quarantined, or are out ill, or a family member happens to be ill, and they're still able to teach, then our staff members will be, of course it is their choice, because we want to make sure that they are well cared for, that they would be able to choose to still deliver instruction from home. And we would place another staff member in that classroom just to provide supervision and ensure that all of our students are safe, but that students in the brick and mortar building could then receive instruction from the teacher at home, just like our students at home will receive instruction from the teacher in their brick and mortar building. Of course, if a teacher is too ill, we would never want our staff to be teaching when they are unable to do so. Care for self and others and loved ones is, of course, one of our foundations here in this district. And so our staff have been provided time and support to create lessons ahead of time that they could then, Ryan's gonna laugh, magically reveal in Schoology. Somehow they then become available to our students because the lessons have been prepared ahead of time. And of course, if barring all else, if those lessons have been exhausted, then we have an amazing collaborative team, and we could rely on either some of their departmental colleagues to support the instruction, or our learning and teaching team experts who would then step in and be able to support our students in their learning.
All right, thank you. And that brings us to time.
Thank you so much. I want to thank all of these administrators, building and district, who have joined us this evening. Families, thank you for joining us. We know that you have lots of things you can be doing with an hour of your evening, and we are grateful that you've given it to us. If you still have questions, please reach out to any one of these building administrators. Reach out to me. Reach out to Adam, to Lori, to Kelly Frankenfield, Director of EL Services, who is also here this evening. We want to be sure that you have all of the information you need to start this school year excited and confident. So thank you. We will look forward to seeing you very soon, and we wish you a wonderful evening.